Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Reed and Michael Hall. It feels like it's been a long time since I've said that. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of this episode is The Destination, and to bring on this very exciting, very rebuilt, recalibrating type of episode, we brought in our boy, Trevor Sikkema from PFF. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Appreciate you having me on the show as always.
Yes, sir. It's been a while, Trevor, but latest news is Washington has traded away Sam Howell to the Seahawks. They've exchanged basically what they've done is they traded up from the 4th to the 3rd and from the 5th to the 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
The 6th to the 5th.
6th to the 5th, my bad. So with that being said, what does Washington do at number 2 right now, Trevor?
Yeah, first of all, I don't really know why Seattle gave up the price that they did, because their whole vibe around Geno Smith has been very strange this offseason. They restructure his contract. They kind of like make it easier to trade him if they wanted to do that. Now they bring in Sam Howell, and Adam Schefter tweets out like, will compete for the starting job. And it's like, well, all right, okay, I guess. Like, Sam obviously did some good things last year. I figured that after they signed Marcus Mariota, I was like, all right, they're going to trade Sam because they don't want to keep him around on the roster. They don't want to risk, like, if the rookie struggles or if Mariota struggles, like, what about Sam? All this. So I figured that they were going to move on from him. So that was going to be a eventually type of thing. So I wasn't too shocked about that. But I do think that it obviously signals they're picking quarterback at number 2. And if they're not picking quarterback at number 2, they're picking quarterback at number 1, because now they have 6 picks in the top 100. And unless you are going to convince a team to really load the back end of a trade to move back, I don't really see that happening, because for teams, they often don't like to trade picks that they're not exactly sure where they're going to be picking, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like the further you get down the road, yeah, you can say to yourself, oh, we hope we're going to be better in 2 to 3 years, but you never know that. So for Washington to trade down, like, let's paint a picture of them going from 2 to 6 or whatever, right? And they're trading down from 2 to 6 with the New York Giants. The Giants are popping up. They're going down on number 6. Are the Giants really going to sit here and say, like, yeah, we're going to give you multiple top 50 picks in years that we don't even know where we're going to end up picking? It's just a harder sell than to be able to know exactly what the value is from what they have. And what they have this year already is 6 top 100 picks. So to me, all of this says we're either taking a quarterback at number 2, or we're loading up to make Chicago basically say no to us at number 1 overall. We are going to give you a deal that we are comfortable with because we have enough day 2 capital. And remember, Chicago doesn't. Chicago's got the first pick. They have the 9th pick. They have no second round picks. They have pick 75 in the 3rd round. And then they've got 2 4th round picks. They only have 5 selections in this entire draft. Maybe Poles is okay with that. Sheesh. But maybe he's okay with either Caleb Williams or Drake May, moves down 1 spot, gets himself a couple of extra draft picks here and there, and Washington ends up to go get the hometown kid. So I don't know. To me, the Sam Howell move fully says they're taking a quarterback at number 1 or number 2 in this draft.
Right. How funny would it be if Cliff Kingsbury just really, really liked Marcus Mariota a lot, and he was like, hey, we're just going to go offensive tackle at 2, which would be, I mean, obviously offensive tackle is neat, but
Marvin Harrison Jr. They're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah.
There we go. But hey, I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. all day and twice on Sundays. But so what is it? I know, obviously, look, I consider myself a Drake May guy as well. It's not to say that I don't like Jaden Daniels. I'd be ecstatic if we drafted Jaden Daniels at number 2. But with all this kind of out the window, or a new window is kind of opened up with the Sam Howell trade, like you talked about, the Caleb Williams possibility. What would Caleb Williams bring to DC?
Oh, I mean, look, he's my QB1 for a reason, man. I mean, he, to me, brings you rare ability, right? I mean, I think that there are at least 3 quarterbacks. You could argue J.J. McCarthy can get there, but I think there's at least 3 quarterbacks that give you really high-end starting ability at the NFL level. Caleb gives you that, but then he also gives you those moments where it's like rare stuff. like
Right.
stuff that Lamar Jackson does, stuff that Josh Allen does, stuff that I know it's sacrilegious to say this, but like Patrick Mahomes does, where he gets out of the pocket, he gets out of structure, he can keep his eyes downfield, and he can make those backyard type of plays that it's just like, how did he even think about that, let alone pull it off? I mean, that
So
2022.
you guys just heard it. Trevor Sikkema said that Caleb Williams is the next Pat Mahomes. You guys heard it.
Yeah.
Better than better. Yeah. Right. So no, but like that's why Caleb. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury offense or not, and the Kingsbury offense point is sort of interesting because Kingsbury obviously had the chance to do exactly what he wanted to do at the NFL level. And in fact, some people would tell you that maybe his leash was a little bit longer than it should have been while he was in Arizona. And it didn't work in Arizona. Now, that's not to say that it's not going to work with him as an offensive coordinator. I'm not trying to say that, because being a head coach and being an offensive coordinator are different things. Arizona was clearly very dysfunctional under Steve Keim, really bad drafts, not good team building. I don't know how much of that was input from Kingsbury or not, but a lot of people talk about like, oh, the Kingsbury spread air raid, whatever, it's coming to DC. And yeah, of course there's going to be elements of that. He wants to light up the scoreboard like anybody else does, but right. I'm not so sure it's going to look exactly like it has in the past. I think he's learned a lot of things. So it's not just going to be this, oh, Caleb Williams fits his offense and nobody else does. Like Drake May wouldn't. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but I do think that the marriage would be fantastic, right? I think that those two guys being in the same room and having the offensive capabilities and the offensive talent that Caleb Williams has just opens up the door for a creative offensive guy like Cliff Kingsbury to design a lot of really great stuff. So to me, it's if they have the chance to go get him, you go do it and you bring him in for those reasons.
Nah, 100% agree. And since we opened up the Caleb Williams door, I might as well just step all the way in there. A lot of people have talked about how he plays off script. Obviously, he's running around, like you said, he makes those backyard type of plays. Mm-hmm. Is that something that would worry you as a scouter or a GM or a coach, that sometimes he does play too off script, and obviously he's not going to be able to run around like that and do what he did in the NFL letter because bigger, faster, stronger guys. But is that something that would worry you as a GM, or you think that's something that could eventually just get coached out of him and he can actually play on script and become the guy that everyone thinks he can be?
Yeah, of course. It's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of people are trying to find the answer to, is how confident are you in him being able to do a lot of those magical plays at the NFL level? Because we see a lot of guys in college football do a lot of crazy stuff. But when it comes to getting to the NFL level, like you mentioned, not a lot of guys that could do that same stuff. The reason why I'm not really as worried about Caleb Williams as maybe his numbers or some other people would bring up is because, first of all, let's take a look at the total team effort, right? USC is one of the worst defenses in the country. Like, they're giving up 50 points a game. And I don't say this to make an excuse for Caleb. There is part of him as a competitor, as somebody who wanted to win the Pac-12 championship and play for the college football playoff, that believed if I don't score a touchdown or if we don't get points on every single drive, we will lose. We will lose because our defense is that bad. And I genuinely believe that was in the back of his mind for a lot of the pressing that we saw him do this past season. The other part of his game that I think a lot of people worry about.
Perfect relationship to come to Washington then.
What?
What with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. with defense?
Right.
I mean, like, if you're Caleb Williams, you're looking at that salivating.
Right. And I mean, shoot, hopefully he doesn't have to worry about that anywhere he would be drafted. It wouldn't be as bad as it was at USC, but certainly
you never know.
I like Dan Quinn a lot. I have been really caping for him to get a head coaching gig, and so I'm excited about to see what he does in Washington. But another point about Caleb Williams, the time to throw, right? People look at the time to throw average. It's very, very high. Over the last 2 years, his time to throw average is 3.21 seconds. The only quarterbacks in the NFL over the last, I think this is a 3-year sample size, that have had, or maybe it's just 2, a consistent time to throw above 3, it's Lamar Jackson and it's Justin Fields. That's it. And they're two very different reasons, right? Lamar is actually creating outside of the pocket, extending the plays, but keeping his eyes downfield, continuing to make plays. That's why he's an MVP caliber quarterback. Fields, his time to throw is high because he struggles to see the field at the speed that he needs to. That's not Caleb Williams' problem, if you ask me, because if we have an ability to use our PFF Ultimate tool to just really like shrink and categorize grades and plays and performances in a lot of different areas. And we have a tool where we can select only the plays in which he was moved off of his spot. So that doesn't mean mobile, right? Because if you are, for example, if you are doing a play action boot, you are doing play action and then you are rolling out to your right or left, that doesn't mean you were moved. Like that's the intention of the play. Right, so when we can categorize these plays and put them in certain I guess like blinders, viewpoints, if we click on just plays in which he was not moved off of his spot, so the offensive line actually did their job, his time to throw, it's right there with everybody. It's 2.65 seconds. It's average. It's exactly what you would want. He's able to operate the offense correctly. It's only when he was moved. It's only when he was pressured. It's only when he had to bail that you see him hold on to the ball a little bit longer, try to do the Superman thing and all that. And I think that's something that's coached out of him. Last point that I'll say is I think that he gets a bad rap for how he sees the field because he plays in the Lincoln Riley offense. Lincoln Riley's offense, kind of collegey, a little gimmicky. You got all these RPO screens, it's doing a lot of stuff that's going to work at the college level. Can't really pull that stuff off at the NFL level. But when Caleb was asked to sit back, do a 3, 5, 7-step drop, evaluate the defense, go through his progressions, he did so beautifully, on time. And I think he does not get enough credit for the processor that he is and how he sees defenses. So like those are things, honestly, guys, I'm not really worried about him. Not that he's going to step on the field in the NFL and be perfect, but I've seen him do all of these things. And so it makes me believe that as he learns at the NFL level, that's in his wheelhouse, that's within his ceiling.
My man.
Right. Real fast to add to that. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury doesn't know that? Cliff Kingsbury knows exactly what he's getting with Caleb Williams after coaching him last year. So to your point, like if anybody knows Caleb Williams and how he can process things, it's Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury was with him last year. Yeah.
Yep.
I've just been saying this stuff for 2 months. But Trevor, my next question for you, sir. Washington added a lot of bodies here in free agency, and they did it in a really productive and smart way, only amounting to 5th most spending in free agency thus far, even though adding 13-plus players up until this point. What would you say, in your opinion? I'm not sure if you know every single player that we've added here, but what is the best value signing that Washington has made this week?
Ooh, value signing. So I got it up right now because PFF has a really good free agency tracker that you guys can go see over at pff.com. I think I like the Austin Eckler one a lot, really. Like, I think that this is somebody who can really add a lot of versatility to the offense. I'm going to say a lot of buzzwords that people have said all week probably about the Eckler signing, but I love what he can do out of the backfield, man. He is such a great rotational running back by committee piece, and he's even somebody who over the last couple of years has shown when he's needed to carry more volume, he has been able to do that. Now, it's hard for any back to keep that level of production given that level of volume a lot, and I think we saw that last year as well, but certainly out of the backfield, what he is as a receiver, his veteran presence, I think that getting Eckler on a 2-year, $11.43 million deal is really good value for him. I also love Jeremy Chinn coming to this team on kind of like a prove it deal, this 1-year, $5 million deal. Let's see how Dan Quinn can utilize this guy. So yeah, what's up?
Have you heard anything about Chinn at Carolina? Because obviously former team captain, his stats kind of went down. He had an injury, but there was also some rumblings about the coaching staff. Obviously they had a lot of turnover there. But have you heard anything what happened with Jeremy Chinn the last couple of years?
Just kind of like from an outsider's perspective, I talked to some people who cover the team as beat reporters, and I've never straight up just asked, hey, what happened with Jeremy Chinn? But this is a player who, I'll throw in Isaiah Simmons as well, kind of like into this mix where he's this linebacker, safety, slot defender hybrid, and all of that is really cool to say. But if you don't have a home base as a player, the versatility makes you homeless, if you will. And so, like, you really have to be able to, if you are a versatile player, that's great. But I need you to be a linebacker first, and then we can also play you in the slot when we go nickel. Or I need you to be a safety first, and then when we go heavy, you can play Will, or you could play Sam, or you can come down.
What was so great about Troy Polamalu.
Dude, and the one, people get caught up in the versatility thing, and if you don't have a home, you will then, like I said, be homeless. You won't start. You won't have a starting spot because you won't be able to master something the way that you need to, and you won't be able to play in the defensive structure the way you need to. I think Jeremy Chinn was unfortunately a casualty of the Matt Rule, Phil Snow system, then going into the Ejiro Evero system, like drafted for one thing, trying to play as another. Okay, now you're switching. Okay, he was linebacker this year. Now he's going to be more of a safety. Now he's going to be a linebacker. And like, it's just this back and forth. And like, sure, he can do those things, but he's not really getting better at one of them the way that he needs to. So I don't have and that's just kind of from an outsider's perspective and the little things that I've heard with the frustrations of him over the years. And Chinn was also frustrated, right? I think Chinn could have stayed with Carolina. I didn't think they didn't like him, but I think he himself was like, no, it's time for me to move on. Like, you guys clearly just, you don't know how to use me. I'm not really getting what and I don't actually know it. I don't know what his preference is. I don't know if he really wants to be a back end guy, if he wants to turn into a free safety, if he wants to be a box safety, if he wants to be more of a linebacker. Like, we'll see, because Dan Quinn, the reason why I really wanted him to get another shot as a head coach is because I feel like he's a great players coach. I feel like he is somebody who listens to his players, who wants to put his players in position to succeed. He doesn't have this ego with his scheme where it's like, hey, this is what I run. If you can't do it, hit the bricks. It's like, okay, here's what I want to accomplish. How do we do that? And I think a lot of the years that he had, both at the college level and the NFL level, has given him a lot of experience there. So that's another one. Jeremy Chinn's another one that I'm excited to see how they end up using him in Washington.
Yeah, one of my biggest takeaways from his press conference was them saying that for the quality control coaches, we're going to have the ability to communicate with the younger draft picks, younger free agents, whatever players on the team, so that they can have a good vision on what is requested of them from the higher ups. And that level of communication for a young player, just to be told, like, you know, like, because a lot of your imagination plays on you sometimes as players. And if you have a quality control coach saying, no, they like you, they just want you to do this, that goes a really long way, Trevor.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, it's any job, right? Like, if anybody's out there, like, working a job, like, when you think about end of the year bonuses and getting raises and like going up the ladder, like, it's the same thing on a football field, right? Like, if you don't know the ultimate direction of the company that you work for, or the branch that you are working for, or just a certain part of the company that you're working for, how are you ever going to get better in the way that they want you to get better if there's not that communication? Like, because here's the thing. You could tell people all the time, like, yeah, we think you're a good player, all that kinds of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like we like you, but then you're sitting here and you're not starting, or you're not getting more reps, and you go, well, okay, stop telling me you like me, and like, actually tell me what gets me these reps. It's the same thing out there in the real world, if you will. Like, it's not like, okay, yeah, you say you like me all the time, but like, this dude gets a raise, this guy gets hired over me for a promotion. Like, tell me what I actually need to do to achieve those things. And it's an organizational structure that I think is really, really important, that we think exists everywhere. But for many people who are out there in the workforce, y'all know that's not as guaranteed as it should be.
Yeah. And then to your point, Jeremy Chinn, didn't he say that the reason that he signed here was to work with Dan Quinn? Wasn't that somebody put that out there? And it makes sense. I mean, look at the success he had in Dallas with DBs. Look at the success, obviously, in Seattle. So, hey, I mean, who better to kind of get your career back on track than somebody like Dan Quinn? Mm-hmm. Now, Washington, we know that they filled out the roster, and a lot of people trying to clown on us because we're signing all these aging guys because they think that we're signing Austin Eckler to be a 1,000-yard back. That's not the case, fellas. Calm down. We had about 50 spots open on this roster. We needed to bring people in here that can play and that can actually make out this roster. But one hole, there's still pretty gaping hole. Obviously, now quarterback is one. You want to look at corner, but left tackle, that's another one. You can make an argument for both tackle spots, even though I think obviously right now without Charles Leno, left tackle is the bigger one. So let's say that they keep 36 and 40. Picks 36 and 40. Is there a viable left tackle that can be taken there that can start year one, or do you think they'd have to trade back up?
It's always tough, right? Like, I could name you a couple guys. Like, Jordan Morgan's played tackle the last couple of years, and I like him. Like, I like Kieran Amagaji, the offensive tackle from Yale. I like Kingsley Suamatia, the tackle from BYU as well. Like, these guys are all players who I think could start at offensive tackle in the NFL, but I can say that as a draft guy liking these players, but the fact of the matter is that if you need a starting offensive tackle, you got to take one in the first round. Like, that's
where
those
bank
dudes
on a day two guy.
Right. That's where those dudes go off the board. And so I think that certainly with 6 picks now, if they're in the top 100, if they're sticking at number 2 and just taking a quarterback straight up, that is, Washington does become a team that has the ammunition to get aggressive, to jump back into the first round. And if a JC Latham or maybe an Amarius Mims, although I think those guys are going pretty high, like maybe like a
There's
Tyler
rumors of
Guyton.
Olu Fashanu.
Yeah, I mean, if Olu slides a little bit, just because Troy Fautanu it seems like is going up the board as well. Like, do you believe Graham Barton can play at offensive tackle? If you do, then he kind of comes into the mix. Like, there are some guys that can be starting caliber offensive linemen that'll go in the 20s this year.
Right.
Just is the right one going to be there for you to jump up and get into the party? I think that is a good question to answer on draft weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's because we've had this discussion on Discord, and I think, honestly, the best way to get a starting left tackle is probably via trade is the best case scenario, because the other avenues where free agency is you have the injury concerns, the age and contracts and whatnot, so possibly trade's probably the best way to go down. But Trevor, to wrap this up, I only have a couple more questions for you, brother. But we talked about draft. So who do you have a draft favorite right now? Let's say not in the first round to make it easy on you. Let's make it a little bit difficult. Do you have a draft favorite at the moment that you cannot wait to tell people about?
Just like any player?
Yes. Not in the first round.
Javon Bullard from Georgia is somebody that, I mean, I just absolutely love. Full pun intended. I mean, this dude's an absolute dog. Like, and here's the thing. Like, you don't get to play as an underclassman for a program like Georgia in the thick of their national championship winning defenses unless you are a dude, unless you are doing exactly what you're supposed to do and then giving them additional value as well. This guy has started in the slot for Georgia, and he has started at strong safety for Georgia as well. I like him the most in the slot, but he is a fearless tackler. He is not afraid to get involved up at the line of scrimmage. He likes to get his hands on guys and press. He likes to be physical. And from everything I heard, he is interviewing very, very well. Like, he's just such a very smart corner. He understands the fundamentals of why the game is coached the way that it is, how to play it the right way, the intensity. So I love Javon Bullard. He's somebody that I would shout out. On the other side of the ball, I don't think Jermaine Burton, the wide receiver from Alabama, is getting enough love. I don't really know why. Yeah. And I don't really know why, because the only thing that I can think about is he transferred from Georgia to Alabama, and I wonder if there's like okay, why did you transfer from Georgia to Alabama kind of a thing? And then he can lose his temper a little bit. You can even tell on the field, like he could be a little bit of a hothead. I wonder if he's got a little bit of a temper that like teams don't love. I wonder if it's like beyond him just being a fiery competitor. But instead, all I can see from the film and on tape is this dude wants to moss you every single play. He wants to embarrass you. He wants to create that separation. He wants to make a catch on you, and he wants to let you know about it. He's stronger at the catch point than his body type would tell you he is. He is lightning quick. I love the footwork. I love his hips. I love how he can change direction, and he's got decent long speed as well. So like, that is a dude who, it's a really talented wide receiver class. I gave him a second round grade on film, and it feels like he's going at least a round later than that. And I think that he's just going to be a really good player for some team.
So what you're saying is he's a Steeler. That's what you're saying. Sorry, Hall.
I was gonna say he sounds like George Pickens.
Yeah.
Actually. who I also liked, by the way. I had Pickens as wide receiver 3 in that class. So
you don't want your wide receivers to be cats. You want some dogs out there.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Some boys with their hearts. We got too many cats on this roster. We need to bring some dogs in here.
Such an epic rant.
Yeah, Kyle's.
So you were talking about the cornerback position, and that got me thinking about this is that was listed as this team's need, one of this team's needs. And going back to last year, obviously we drafted Emanuel Forbes in the first round. I just wanted to get, what was your thoughts on Emanuel Forbes going into that draft? And were you surprised he had the season that he did here last year? And do you think that Joe Witt and Dan Quinn can kind of coach him up and turn him around to a good cornerback, or a better cornerback, I should say?
Yeah, let me see. I wasn't the biggest fan of Forbes last year. I'm trying to remember, where did I have him? Yeah, I gave him like a mid to late second round grade. I think he was ranked in the 30s for me on my final big board.
What was the concerns? The weight?
Yeah, just no, 100%. I mean, like, it's just, brother, it's a physical league, man. Like, you got to be able to come up and attack. And that's the problem with some of the guys in this class, right? You got like Nate Wiggins for Clemson. I love Nate Wiggins. He's like a $170 soaking wet like that. And he has these plays that are phenomenal where he's chasing dudes down and he's forcing fumbles and like, it's great effort plays, but like, where is the play-by-play strength of you really wanting to get involved in the run game? You really wanting to get involved in screens. You really wanting to tackle. They're just not there for him. And it's kind of, I look at Nate Wiggins, and it sucks because just like Forbes, man, rare movement ability. I mean, the click and close, the start and stop, what he could do at his size, really impressive stuff from Forbes. And it's the same thing for Nate Wiggins. But these are guys that I really want to love because they're good coverage players, and that's what your job is as a corner. But if you can't tackle, if you can't be physical, you're going to get exposed. I mean, there's too many good, strong wide receivers in the NFL. And the worst part is offensive coordinators at the NFL level, they study opposing game tape very, very well. And if you can't be physical, they are going to throw screens at your side of the field all game long. They are going to demand that you they're going to demand that you be the one who comes up to tackle. They're going to scheme it so whoever's blocking in front of them, whether they're coming in from the offensive line or the slot, or however they position the receivers in a stack formation, they're going to make it so you are the guy who has to tackle. And so that's why I didn't love Forbes for that reason. I still think there's certainly hope for him. He's got to get bigger. He's got to get stronger. He's got to get better as a tackler. But the coverage ability, I think, is always going to be there for him. And I'll say this too. It's really hard to play rookie corner in the NFL. I would argue that it's the second hardest position to play as a rookie outside of quarterback because you are learning so much. It was explained to me once by a former player that starting as a rookie corner is like trying to drink water through a fire hose. There's just
Kyle can suck it out of that. Yeah.
You just can't. You just cannot. I'm gonna keep going.
You're killing me, man.
You cannot. You just cannot possibly take in all of the stuff that is coming at you. Whether it's that you're studying of the offensive guys, like understanding their releases, understanding their routes, understanding the offensive scheme, what they like, their strengths and weaknesses, but then your own game. Like you're probably getting challenged as an athlete for the first time in years, right? If you're a corner and you make it to the NFL, you're damn sure were the best athlete in your high school. You're probably the best athlete that you had in college. And there were probably 2-3 weeks a year where you actually had somebody that you lined up against that was actually caliber of how good you were. So now in the NFL, every single week, you've got to step up as an athlete. You got to be your best. So it's just so tough to do. So for Forbes, it's not a kiss of death at all that he struggled last year. As long as he continues to gain confidence, and I've got faith that Dan Quinn can be the guy to do it, he can still be a great cover corner. He just, again, he's got to get stronger.
Somebody should tell Nate Wiggins real fast if they talk to him that you can put together a few good games early on as a cornerback, and then every once in a while you'll run into an A.J. Brown that'll just completely kill your confidence. So you just got to keep focused, unlike Emanuel Forbes there, and because after A.J. Brown ruined the guy.
Well, then he has
and that's the thing, right? Like Forbes comes from the SEC. Obviously, I think the SEC is the best conference in college football. But even then, how often are you going up against a wide receiver that's truly challenging you in that way? And it's probably not often. So they talk about short-term memory for a corner, and we all just say like, yeah, you got to have it. It's easier said than done, especially for these guys that have big egos, because you got to have an ego to play that position too. When you play corner, this is why I love Devon Witherspoon. Devon Witherspoon believed that he was the baddest dude on the planet every single time he stepped on the field, every single game that I watched. And he played like it. And so that was a guy I had no reservations about. I had him as my number 5 overall player last year because I had no worries about that at all whatsoever. Yeah. And Forbes was just somebody who, as the worst thing that could happen to you as your rookie is you lose confidence. Because when you lose confidence, and it's natural, I get it, you can't let it spiral out of control. But when you lose confidence in yourself, that takes away the, I think, gem that is failing early on. If you are confident in yourself and you fail early on, you go, damn, let me work on that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to come back and I can best this. I can handle this situation better. I know I can handle this. If you fail and you lose confidence in yourself, you go, damn, can I play in this league? And all of a sudden, like that is a slippery slope. And the right coaches are the ones that allow you to fail but maintain that confidence. And those are the guys that you see make that year 2, year 3 jump to some really good football players.
Also, real fast for Forbes, that was kind of the problem during minicamp and during training camp. He was tearing it up every day. It was like Emanuel Forbes had 2 interceptions today. Emanuel Forbes, and to your point, it's because they weren't hitting. They weren't really. You're not going hard against your teammates like that. So it's like then all of a sudden you get to the regular season,
right?
You're getting some helmets put to your chest. You're getting some things happening. You're getting shoved around. You can't check these guys at the line like you want to, and all of a sudden it's just like, holy shit, what am I doing right now? What is going on?
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
So,
you saw a lot of that last season. The one key word I've used is hollow. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot of motivation behind.
Yeah,
that
it seems like he's
defense
made
last
out
season.
of wood. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Trevor. Now to wrap this up, my last question for you. It's kind of a warped one in a sense, though. But let's just say the first round was all that existed in this draft. We all know there's other rounds, but let's just say there's only the first round. If Washington were to acquire Caleb Williams, how much of a projection do you think that is for the team in division and in the conference?
Oh wow, like wins and losses?
Yeah. Because you do have to consider the Cliff Kingsbury connection because that is different. But of course, like you said, Drake May, Jaden, they all fit that offense and they can do it. But obviously, Caleb offers a little bit more.
Caleb's different, right?
Yeah. What was their record last year? What they finished with? How many wins?
What was it? 3-14?
Whoever finished with the
13?
second least amount of wins was us.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you got Caleb, and
you got to
I'm
take
just
into
looking
consideration of free agency moves too.
Oh, I'm looking at their depth chart right now,
Okay,
and it's like it. I mean, this is a solid team, especially with again, like I like Dan Quinn a lot.
Right.
I mean, we're talking like somewhere between 6 to 8 wins at least. Like this is a competitive football team. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, this is a competitive football team. I don't think they'd be a playoff team yet. They're still trying to get some of the guys in the older regime, whether they're kind of determining that they're the right guys to keep around or not. Like it normally takes a year, but this team should be competitive, especially if you get Caleb Williams. This is a competitive football team. So 6, 7, 8 wins, something like that. I think that's the range for this roster as I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and that's honestly a really good prediction just to be able to base it on because you have to look looking next year, Adam Peters kind of shaped it out to they still have $100 million cap space projected for 2025, which kind of tells you that it is building that kind of foundation so they can move in the draft. And it's to your point about just being realistic in a sense. Trevor, I can't thank you enough for joining us, man. It's always a pleasure, and how much time you gave us. I know we went a little bit over, but would you like to plug your social media handle and your show just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet, sir, and would like to? But we all know they exist.
Yeah, at Tampa Bay Trey on Twitter and Instagram. After your listeners listen to this fantastic show, if they want to come out and hang out at the NFL Stock Exchange podcast with myself and Connor Rogers, that's where we're talking draft at all times, so you can see us there. If you're a PFF subscriber, you can get the PFF NFL Draft Guide, which is out right now, so you can see a lot of my analysis, the strength and weaknesses, the traits, the PFF advanced data for all these guys. We got 150 guys on it right now. We're trying to get 250 by the time draft weekend rolls around, and so we'll have some draft grades and everything like that after the season as well. But dude, it's always great being with you guys. I always really love coming on here and getting to chop it up with y'all. So I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
And please excuse the bad jokes.
Pleasure is ours.
They're not very funny. Trevor, have a good night, brother. Appreciate you, man.
See you guys.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Trevor Sikkema. I really do appreciate having him on here. I know Reed does as well.
Yeah, Trevor's the man, dude. And
He killed that, actually. That was a lot of good information.
Oh, yeah. And anytime you talk about sucking something out of something, like, I have to make a joke. Like, Kyle, like, you remember that time when you showed me how you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose?
Why are you doing
remember
this
that?
to me?
You did it. I was
All
like, Kyle, why are you showing me this? I don't
Now, let's
care.
go-
And
let's
I was
go to
like,
our-
but that's very impressive. Your lung density. Like, that's impressive.
Let's go to our fan questions to wrap up this episode. My goodness. This is from Hog on the Mountain. He had a question about trading Sam Howell, which obviously got destroyed by the actual trade of Sam Howell, so he kind of adjusted it. Was the trade worth losing a young, up-and-coming quarterback still on a rookie deal? I think it was, but I've heard some strong arguments against.
I'll say I like the arguments against it. I could definitely see why you would keep him because he did show that potential, and maybe with like a little bit more like proper coaching, a little bit more time in the NFL, maybe staying under the same system for once instead of just changing system to system every single year. Then I could definitely see like why you could keep him as like a high end backup, maybe like a guy that gives you some spot starts in an injury situation, or if you draft a rookie, maybe it gives you some spot starts in the beginning of the season. But honestly, we know this fan base. Like, you're a part of this fan base. The minute the rookie quarterback starts tripping up, has a bad stretch of games, the chants are going to start coming out for Howell. They're going to start howling in the stands. It's going to get ridiculous, kind of like Taylor Heineke, like the whole Taylor Heineke craze where everyone wanted to, I mean, rightfully so. Carson Wentz was like booty. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, you know how it is with the backup quarterback. Everyone loves the backup quarterback. He's the most popular guy in town. And especially a guy like Sam Howell, who everyone, for the most part, was backing last year. And still, there's still his backers out there. So just for the peace of mind of the rookie quarterback, which for me, I don't really like look into it because if he has that in the back of his mind, he shouldn't be the guy in the first place. But just for the peace of mind of a new guy coming in, a rookie quarterback, it's best to just get the not celebrity backup quarterback, but the popular backup quarterback out of there and kind of just let it be all about the rookie and let him take his lumps without having the fan base, the Twitter, the social media people over his shoulder talking about, oh, we want Sam and blah, blah, blah. So that's the only reason why I think they got it done so fast, as in like literally as we're talking about it.
Also, real fast, it is funny because nobody's going to be on the bench being like, put in Mariota.
Exactly.
Come on, man. Leave the guy alone. He just got here.
No, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Goodness. Leave the.
That was my guy when he was at Oregon.
He's a cool guy. No, he's a cool guy.
Remember
dude, he was a man at Oregon. He was so good.
I don't want to.
It's like, what happened?
I'm in a good mood.
He peaked in high school. What's going on?
But for me, Hog, I do think it was worth it, to be honest. And I do think it was worth it for Sam. Sam proved that he could play in this league last year. And I think that he was put in a very bad situation. I said this on the pod last week. A smart person is going to look at Sam and say, I can put him in a much better situation, get good production out of him similar to what he did last year, but limit the mistakes with the solid running game and the offensive game plan that we're running here. And that's obviously what happened. And so I am happy for Sam, because Sam has the ability to compete for the starting job. What we essentially said is Sam's not going to have the ability to compete for the starting job. That should tell you everything that you need to know. We already know that we've been beating into the ground. Everyone knows that we're going quarterback in the first round. I know this. Everyone else does. So I just think it's smart that they went down this route for everybody involved. It's an easy and smooth transition. No harsh feelings, no bad feelings, no stringing along anybody. And this is the best way to go about doing it. And I understand the other aspect of you need a solid quarterback, a good on a rookie deal, taking advantage of that. But in all reality, your backup quarterback needs to be a veteran who knows the offense and will be able to come in on moment's notice and just put the ball in the playmaker's hands. That's it.
Yeah. Real fast, I got to take off, but real fast, I just thought of something. I didn't even think about this. Well, yeah, it's I apologize. I didn't even think about this. First of all, shout out OG, the man, friend of the show. We all love him. He's the king. OG's got to be losing his mind after
this.
He's been banging on the table. Oh my god! How bad does he hate it?
Very much. I'm not going to read his DM, dude. I'm not going to.
Don't read his DM. No, that sucks, man. I know that feeling. I don't, but that sucks. Yeah, no, because I love OG. OG's the man. He's been pounding on the table hard. He's like, you got to build around Sam. Build around Sam. And damn, my bad, OG. I didn't. That sucks, dog.
You're kind of messed up. It's cool though. Now have a go and read.
Hey, everybody. Hey, real fast. You know what I was thinking today? This weather brought up a random memory for me because it's so beautiful out. It reminds me of when I was a kid, and there was 2 separate occasions where I got warheads from the ice cream man, and I sucked on them until my tongue started bleeding, and my mom called me retarded. Yeah, she was like, "Stop! Is your tongue bleeding again?" I was like. Yeah. She was like, did you get the warheads again? I was like, yeah, and it hurts. She was like, stop. They're too sour for you. Nothing's going to stop me when I want to munch some delicious treats. Anyway, that's where my mind's been at today.
I'm sure Lindsay loves hearing that story.
Lindsay hates me. She hates me.
I know
she hates me.
I know she does. All right.
Such a random story.
Dude, I don't want to talk about it. Now the next question, Hall. This is from Aled, our boy in the UK from Wales. Thank you, Aled. Oi! Hope all is well. I've got a question. As it's looking likely that Hal could get traded, would you trade him during the draft or keep him until, say, August preseason where a team might be desperate for a quarterback because of an injury? I think that before the draft's the right way, Aled. Obviously, I've said it for a while, but you're right. I think Adam Peters agrees with you, man, that we should have did it this way. And it obviously is the smartest way to go about it. Now, Washington Werewolves wants us to say, please give a big shout out to Adam Peters and all the coaches being in collaboration with each other during this process. Almost all position coaches got a vet leader for on-field transition. Tight end, running back, O-line, D-line, linebacker, safety. Great several days seeing putting together the team. Absolutely, wholeheartedly agree with his sentiments there.
No, that's hell of a point. That was actually like when we got Bobby Wagner yesterday and like just looking at all these vets that we signed, I was just going through the list and I was really thinking to myself, like, because everyone was talking about they can go anyway.
And the captains, right?
Yeah. former team captains, guys that have led their respective rooms as far as like the positions. Like Austin Eckler's been the guy in the running back room. Bobby Wagner, obviously still that dude, but he's been the dude in the linebacker room. So like just all dudes that have been there, done that, have led a room, led the position group, been captains, like you said, and they just have so much knowledge to drop down and pass on to the younger guys that are on the team and are going to be drafted. So love everything they've done so far. I got to echo that statement.
Yep. Now this next question is from Paul Murphy on Twitter. I love most of our free agent signings, but who are your top 3 signings so far and why? Mine are Wagner, Eckler, and Luvu, mainly for their mix of experience, leadership, explosiveness, and ability to make game-changing plays. If Eckler stays fit, our running game has huge upgrades.
Yeah, obviously I'll go with no order. I'll go, what's his name, Alleghetti, the guard that we signed, just because, I mean, just everyone knows he's a tough son of a gun, played through the Super Bowl with a torn UCL. Travis Kelce gave him a shout out, was like, yo, he's a hell of a dude, hell of a locker room guy. And just he mentioned that he's just he loves football because he wants to be a guy that like wants to be a leader of men, wants to go be a starter in this league. And I think he mentioned the only way to be a leader of a man and like be a leader on the team is to be a starter, which that's not technically true, but for the most part, if you're a starter, guys are going to respect you a little bit more and listen to what you're saying. But I think he's a guy that's going to be able to step in. We gave him a 3-year deal, so they obviously think he can step in, be a day one starter, and really upgrade this line for whoever we draft a quarterback. Obviously, Bobby Wagner's on my list because like the resume speaks for itself. Is he the same Bobby Wagner from 2, 3, 4 years ago? Of course not. Is he the same Bobby Wagner that has that leadership quality, leader of men quality, is going to come in and demand respect from 2, 3, 4 years ago? Damn right he is. So gladly welcome that because we need a vet leader like that on our squad. How long have we been asking for our next generations like London Fletcher? Obviously, it's a 1-year deal, but again, he can pass down the knowledge to whoever that next up-and-coming guy is. And I'll go with Austin Eckler as well, just because Gavin was talking shit in the group chat, like, oh, he's a bum, because he like basically ruined his fantasy season last year. Mm-hmm. So I just want him. I mean, I think he's gonna have a bounce back year because he was injured all last year, high ankle sprain, hard to come back from, especially at the running back position. He's a great pass catcher.
Work hard to come back with that salary, with what
exactly
him not paying him yet.
Yeah, great pass catcher out the backfield, obviously, and we haven't had that since really J.D. McKissick's been here, Chris Thompson.
Breaking news,
and I think he's
Curtis
better
Samuel
than those guys.
Signing a 3-year, $24 million deal worth up to $30 million, including $15 million guaranteed with the Bills. Good for Curtis Samuel. Congratulations,
yeah, good for Curtis.
Go,
yeah,
work, brother.
I thought he was going to go with the Chiefs. That would have been a great fit for him as well. But those are my 3. I think Eckler's good and for a huge bounce back year as far as like pass catcher and back goes.
My 3 are Jeremy Reeves, Jamison Crowder, and Tyler Ott. Because they obviously saw a problem, they invested in it, and obviously in long snapper, and then also with Jamison Crowder and Jeremy Reeves. I like seeing people work hard and actually produce really well for a team and get paid for it, and to be liked for it and embraced for it. I really do appreciate that kind of stuff. So for those 3, that's what I'm picking. Let's go rapid fire here, Hall. Next question from Tony Franchise. Now that we have made some free agency moves, what do you consider the top 3 priorities in the draft? For me personally, obviously it's very easy now with the Sam Howell news. Quarterback number 1. I think everyone's universally going to say this. Quarterback, left tackle, and then corner is obviously an important need. Kendall Fuller going down to Miami, bless him, and hopefully he has good luck down there on his workcation that he's going to be in Miami. What about you?
I was going to say the same 3. Left quarterback, obviously, left tackle, obviously, and cornerback, just because you don't really have that solid vet in the room. So you need a legit either number 1 alpha or that vet to kind of take over the room.
Now the next question is submitted by the Colonel, who I'm going to go see. We're leaving for Florida tomorrow. Starting to drive down to Florida tomorrow, and then we drive back on Sunday. But luckily, I took off on Monday because it's going to be hard, man.
Hell yeah!
I'm not sure if we're
ridiculous drive.
I'm not sure if we're going to record on Monday. We might, or on Sunday. I think we're going to move it to Monday. But what do you? He asks. The Colonel does. A lot of smoke, mirrors, and subterfuge going on right now. What the heck are we going to do with number 2? Let's do
Yeah, I mean, the Sam Howell trade pretty much solidifies that they're going. I mean, I guess there's still a percentage, small percentage they can trade back. draft J.J. McCarthy, whoever it might be, but they're going quarterback number 2.
Do I need to say it, Colonel? I mean, I have been saying this for weeks, if not months, and been trying to convince everybody or show everybody what the hell I've been talking about. I mean, I've even used the analogy of saying I smell gas in the house, and everyone keeps telling you it's not gas. Well, I think it's time to get the hell out of the house. Well, I'm glad to see everybody come join me outside now. I'm glad that we're all outside together because it was very lonely at first. There's only a handful of us, but I'm glad that we're all here. And we're going with Caleb Williams, Colonel. And that's what I've been feeling for a while now, and I've been very vocal in public about that. And I think it's just the best case scenario. And I first started when we hired Cliff, so that's where I'm going with it. Now the next question we have is from the Discord, and we have really, really good ones. This one from Orange Crush 92. With Fuller to the Dolphins, are there any free agent cornerbacks you are looking at?
Yeah. I would say Stephon Gilmore. Obviously he's still a top half of the league, still a really good corner for this in the league, and obviously he knows Dan Quinn, he knows this system, he knows Joe Witt Jr. Another Cowboy. I know people are like, oh, so many Cowboys, but Jordan Lewis, who when healthy is a really solid corner. He's been the solid corner for the Cowboys, and again, he knows the system, knows Joe Witt, knows Dan Quinn, and could come in and be a day one starter right away. So those are 2 guys that I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's a go in the free agency guys. It's really hard for me to be able to say like who.
And Xavier Howard too, even though he's getting a little bit up there in age.
Yeah, honestly, the free agency aspect of corners, I'm not really interested in because I think there are quality corners in this draft. And looking back at Dan Quinn's defense, looking back at not only in Dallas but in Seattle, they had no problem picking up a corner at any part in the draft. Like what they like is the big-bodied, long corners that can make plays on the football and come up and make tackles. And that's what their DBs do. I mean, think about Cam Chancellor. That's what you're kind of thinking about as a DB prospect from Dan Quinn's defense. And there's guys like Kyrie Jackson, Cam Hart that fits that bill, TJ Tampa that I've talked about a lot. And there's a lot of guys like that. So I think the better route is to be able to get that production out of the draft, because one thing that Quinn's defense has shown you, we can point the importance of Micah being the reason for the turnovers at corner, but I think that naturally this defense, it produces those opportunities for corners. And so that's why you want those taller, longer guys who can make plays on the football and come up and tackle, because it's going to be really hard for offenses to beat you in that case. And obviously Benjamin St. Juste is already tall and long himself, and Emanuel Forbes, as much as he is a stick, he is long in a sense. Pause. But I think that's probably the best route to go down is the draft for me personally. Now, the next question, this one is submitted, a really good one, OC, thank you, by Deluxe. Chinn is a good player, but is he being overvalued a bit, Hall? Chinn had 30 tackles in 12 games with 8 starts. Forrest had 29 tackles in 5 games. Isn't a 1-year, $4.1 million contract more of a prove-it deal? $3.5 million in guarantees?
Yeah, like Trevor talked about when he was on here. It's a low risk, high reward type of deal where it's a prove it deal. If he balls out, gets back to maybe his rookie year when he was second behind Chase Young in Defensive Rookie of the Year votes, and kind of like he's talked about. And we went through this with Sam Cosmi, where one rep he was a right tackle. The next series he's a right guard. The next series he's back to right tackle again. You couldn't really lock down one position and master that position before you say, hey, I know everyone hates this word. Now I can use my position flex to try to learn and master something else. So I think that, like Trevor talked about, I think Dan Quinn is going to sit Jeremy Chinn down and say, hey, what position do you want to play? Or I envision this position for you in my defense, and I want you to master that defense and play it to your best ability. So I think that it's a low-risk, high-reward signing, and I like this signing.
Yeah, I do think that basically what Deluxe is alluding to is that this possibility of Cam Curl being returning and starting is still obviously very big. And everyone knows that Dan Quinn really likes his safeties. And but the point being is I think that was a message in saying that we can find somebody for cheaper here. And look, I get it. I understand this is a business and this is how things go. But I do agree with you, Deluxe, that it is a prove-it deal. He has lost that production, but that's why he came here, because he wanted to come to the best. And that's what he's getting in the DB room, because there's no question about it. Dallas has done a remarkable job of producing corners. They really have. Given with what they've had to pay all these different players in draft capital, like they did a really good job of continuing to pump out production there. And so you could feel good about it regardless. Now, the next question, this one is submitted by Big Tony Shivers Hall. Obviously, the new free agent signings are exciting, but what are your thoughts on the under-the-radar signings of bringing back All-Pro Revo and Crowder back? I love it, Tony. Like I said earlier, I really do appreciate hard hat type of guys that just go about their work and do their business, and their feet aren't kissed constantly, and they just go about it, and they just try to make life better for themselves, and ultimately that's all we can do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a fan favorite, All Pro Revo, definitely deserved to come back. The heart and soul, just like with Tressway, obviously of the special teams unit. Definitely one of the guys that gets the crowd hyped up. Like I said, a fan favorite. So definitely a good signing. And like you said, Jameson Crowder as well. One of those dudes that just works his ass off. And even when he's getting up there in age, injuries pile up, he still says, nope, I'm going to get me a roster spot and I'm going to come on the field and produce for you. So, I mean, definitely like those guys coming back. Those are like, you need glue guys in your locker room for your team. And those are definitely the glue guys for the squad.
Yeah, and obviously, returner was something we had really problems fixing for a while, and Crowder did a really good job in that meantime, and that deserves to be brought back, right? And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who fit under that category. But look, this is what the things are going towards, and a lot of credit to everybody who signed elsewhere, and Curtis Samuel and Kendall Fuller. Really happy for those guys as they're moving forward. So are we. Last question that we have is from Yam, basically saying that with the recent moves in free agency, do we think it leans more so to the thought that Peters and company are going to trade up for Caleb Williams? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but we don't need to go into it 100% again. But what I will say is this. I've said there's a possibility that Washington doesn't even need to trade up. And the reason why I've said this is I think that Chicago is very invested in getting Marvin Harrison Jr. because he said doing right by Justin. I would imagine that Justin is salivating at the thought of being able to throw to Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore, along with Cole Kmet, and then having some help there in the running back room. And so for a long time, I felt like that was the area that they were going down. But the one cog is the Patriots. Because it's easy to say, yeah, they would just pick Marvin Harrison Jr. But the Patriots could be calling and say, look, you could still get MHJ at 3, you know? Just let us throw you a couple more picks here. That's why Washington would have to give a little something just to move up a little bit. And a good thing we have a couple more third-round picks at our disposal, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to even sit here and lie. From the get-go, I've just kind of thrown the Caleb Williams thought out of my head because I just assumed from the get-go, and just like I guess everyone else, that Justin Fields would be traded and they were going to go with Williams. And I'm still of the mindset, like I'd say 55%, 60% chance that they draft Caleb Williams at number 1 and they just say they pretty much sell Justin Fields for scraps or whatever they can give for him, like pretty much on draft night or closer to the draft. But with all the picks, when I saw the tweet from Sam Fortier of all the picks that we've gotten now with everything and like that, and I'm like, I couldn't sit here and lie and say that the first thing that creeped into my mind was, damn, that's a lot of picks. And 2, that's a whole lot of ammo if you really do want to trade up to number 1. So I'm still on the mindset that he'll go to the Bears number 1, but I wouldn't lie and say the thought is now definitely more than creeped into my mind that they potentially could be going up to get him.
It's a lonely place to be up here in this old noggin of mine. You know, that's why I talk so crazy sometimes, because y'all don't make it easy on me. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I mean, imagine just having to listen to some of the stuff that Reed says. I mean, Trevor threw him a softball with the hose, man. I mean, he just, you know, it happens.
I was saying, there's been a couple alley-oops where there's been some jokes. I was just throwing them up to him. I'm like, he's not here. Damn.
I know.
In perfect, typical Reed fashion, he was here for this alley-oop.
Yeah, I know. And it's not fun to make fun of you. You know, it's like, it's just not fun. It's not enjoyable. You can't really.
I don't know why. I don't know why he always just trains the guns and aims them at you. I'm like, there's another guy on here, right?
Make fun of you, Hall. It's easy to make fun of me. I'm funny looking.
I'm just saying he's racist. So I guess that's true.
Yeah, you remember Freddie Ham posted on Twitter last week that I look like the white T.I., and I sent him back that one GIF with like that one weird looking creature. It's like,
yeah.
Like I was like, what are you talking about here, man?
I know that was
first
random.
on Vanilla Ice. Now I'm you know, white TI, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it over Vanilla Ice. I'll just say that. I'm just being honest. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you to everybody who has contributed to this episode today. We really do appreciate all of you. Thank you to Trevor for stopping by and giving us some great info. If you made it this far, you're a freaking champion. If you'd like to contribute by submitting some questions, look for us on Twitter, or if you'd like to see our film breakdowns, you know, mock drafts, all of the news that we had to really talk about, you can find us on Twitter. You can find Hall at TBZ Money Mike 301. You can find me at the Burgundy Zone or the Podfather. Just search me there and do film breakdowns and all the other sorts. But we'll see you guys again, I think, on Monday. I think that's probably better for me. I'm not sure if I want to press the issue too much. Because we also have Deuce's show, Red Zone in the Lab, purely on the NFL draft on Sunday evening. We're going live on YouTube, so make sure you watch out for that. But so I think Monday is probably the best bet for us to do. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend, and hopefully something happens with 31, man. I've been praying on it.
Hell of a time to be a Commanders fan.
Yes, it is. All right, everybody. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.